We're in a game of League, and I'm about to show you how to win your games as Draven. What is up, guys? My name is MipZ, and welcome back to yet another League of Legends video. So today we are playing a none other than the axe-swinging, head-dropping Draven. This champion is one of those champs that I think we all eventually will go through and try, because he's amazing, he's really fun, and the cool thing about this champion is not only does he deal like an absolutely absurd amount of damage, but he also snowballs really hard. Anyway, what we are going to be doing today is that I'm going to teach you guys how to play Draven in the early, mid, and late game, generally over the whole game, the whole match, how to play this champion, the general strategy, and what you want to be doing on him. I'm going to be using the game we are in as an example to let you guys in on my train of thought and teach you guys the basic overall of playing the champion. So I hope you guys are very much gonna enjoy this one and learn a thing or two, or hopefully a lot. But yeah, make sure if you are new in here to go down below, click that subscribe button, join into our awesome community. If you enjoy the video, find it helpful or anything, make sure to smash the like button. It actually really helps me out, and it's totally free to do, so thank you. And lastly, if you want to hang out with me on stream, go to twitch.tv/MipZ_live. I would love to hang out with you guys. Anyways, we are going to start off. We are playing in a lane against a Tristana and a Blitzcrank. This is not necessarily the easiest lane to deal with. And it is something that, that we'll probably have to really think hard how we're going to deal with this. Because the thing is, if we do get caught by Blitzcrank, it's a bad scenario. The thing is that Draven is one of these champs where, or not one of these, he's the champ where you really don't want to be trading with this guy early game. He is a force not to be reckoned with. He's absurdly strong. His auto attacks deal more damage than any other ADC at this point in the game. We got level 2 power spike. These guys are just not at all gonna go ahead, get that double. This is like not a champ that you disrespect. He's level 2. These guys totally did, so yeah, we punished them. We'll talk more about how this can kind of happen and how you can exploit these kind of things in your games. I'm not gonna tell you that I did absolutely insane here, because also this was a pure example of people just completely disrespecting how good Draven is early. Like he's insane, and these guys thought that they could just kind of like fool around and still be okay, and that's not something you do against this guy. All right, so let's kind of talk about how to play this champion in the different phases of the game, starting off with early game. So in the early game, as you might have heard already, then Draven is a force not to be reckoned with. This basically means that whenever you get the chance to do so, you want to take your axe, you want to swing it like as fast as you can and then just fire it right in the face of your opponent, and they're gonna start crying and calling for their mama, because this is really painful. So yeah, that's kind of like the basics of Draven. I know that sounds super simple, but the basics are that you want to make sure, first of all, that you get your farm. This is very important, of course. Whoa, my god, this is gonna be a really aggro lane. It is very important that you make sure that you poke your opponents every time you get the chance to do so, unless you never want to be giving up CS, like your minions, in order to farm. Your farm is always on any ADC, is the most important thing. This also counts for Draven, even though he is super strong early. You can see every time we get a chance to do so, we'll run in there, we'll pop our W, and we'll auto them right in their face. And this is something that you can see at this point, they're getting a little bit frustrated. But I'm making sure I get my farm. I'm looking for a chance to go into their face. You can see right here, as she takes a minion, I go in, I put two autos. Now she's on less than half HP. Next time she tries to do this, she's probably gonna have to jump or maybe even flash away. All right, so right here, we will be able to go ahead and kill that guy super easily. Like you can see the damage here, and Tristana is one of those, Tristana is one of the champs in the game as an ADC that also does really great early. But she doesn't really, if Draven gets a little bit ahead, she doesn't stand a chance at all. But yeah, as you can see, what we're doing is we're making sure we get our CS. As soon as we get our minions, then we start looking to trade and make sure that we fire off our axes into the faces of either Tristana or Blitzcrank, or any, if you're playing against any other support, them. So this is basically the pure fundamentals of playing him. So how do you actually set these things up and end us in a scenario where you can do this? Well, there are a couple of different types of scenarios you can end in. First of all, you can end in the fact that you're playing against a lane that is just hard shoving you under turret. This is kind of the worst scenario you can sit in as Draven, not necessarily because you can't farm, but because you can't poke. This means you don't have pressure. But in these scenarios, you just have to farm under turret, play safe, and make sure you get that farm. Wait for somebody to set something up then. Don't poke if it means that you're gonna lose minions over it. This is very, very important. I'm gonna go ahead and just use this, get that minion. All right. This is very important. You don't want to be losing your minions. That's like literally ADC 101. All right. So now that that's out of the what would you say, out of the way, I guess. Then what you want to be doing in those scenarios is, of course, just playing safe, farming up, wait for a better day, or wait for a better scenario where either one, if they misplay, you punish it hard and run them down. That's the good thing about being pushed under turret, is that you can very easily, if they mess up, take a turret shot. Maybe Blitzcrank uses in, let's say Blitzcrank and Trist were actually pushing us under turret. Then if Blitzcrank misses his grab, or maybe he uses his stun or something, I don't know, then we can very easily just run them down using or W. The thing that you need to know as a new player, if you're new to Draven, is that your W automatically gets reset whenever you pick up one of your axes. You can control which way your axes drop by the way, like which way you're running with Draven. So if I cast my axe here and run backwards, you'll see that my axe lands behind me. If I do the oppositely and basically fire it forward, you'll see that it goes forward. All right, so right here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to punish them once again. I'm not going to be able to finish because literally their whole team is here. But I'm going to go down. I'm going to push this. I got my level 6, so I'm actually going to start looking to fire that off if necessary. Right there, we're going to get a free kill. I'm going to do a greedy play here because I know he's in here. Thank you. I'm just gonna say thank you. Appreciate it. No, but like, seriously, this is what you want to be doing on Draven. When you're in most lanes, then what you want to be doing is, if possible, you want to either keep the minion wave in the middle of the lane, which can be extremely good because this means that you have kind of room and space to run down your opponent and kill them. The other option is pushing them all the way under turret. This can actually also be really good if that allows you, or if that puts you against the comp you're playing against in a scenario where you can actually sit and out of them under turret. Then this can actually also be extremely good. So that's also something you really want to take into consideration if possible. Pretty often, the dangerous thing about pushing people under turret, and the same goes for Draven, is that when you push them on the turret, you're very exposed to their jungler. This means that pushing on the turret is, generally speaking, something you only want to be doing when you know where their jungler is. If you know where their jungler is, then pushing on them on their turret with Draven can actually be extremely good, because this will give you the full range of ability to actually just harass them every time they're trying to get farm, and you'll be able to get a lot of harass on them because of the fact that they will constantly have to evaluate their minions, turrets going for an engage with you. And if you already got them slightly low, they literally won't be able to go all in on you, because that just means that they're gonna die. All right, so again, we are sitting in a scenario where literally our opponents are kind of screwed, to be honest. Okay, I'm just gonna take this farm because he's already dead. As you guys can see, we're snowballing pretty hard. We've been a part of 7 kills. All right, one thing I think we should start talking a little bit about is the usage of your abilities. So with Draven, it's pretty important. First of all, we have what we call the League of Draven, which is our passive. It's actually the passive. I know I've said this in a lot of videos before, but your passive ability is actually the most important ability in the game on most champions. And this is because this one actually kind of tells you how the champion wants to be played or what his strength or weakness is. And Draven's strength and weakness is basically that he is an absolute monster if he gets ahead. But if he falls behind, then he's pretty much useless. So this is kind of what you're playing with when you're playing Draven. And what you want to be thinking really, really much about. So this means with Draven, because of League of Draven, what this thing does is that every time you last hit a minion or you catch one of your axes, then you get a stack of what we call adoration. And adoration, these ones, whenever you get a kill, you basically consume all of these adorations that are then converted into two gold per stack. This basically means that the more stacks you have, the better a scenario you're sitting in. Oh wow, I can't believe I missed that axe. I actually messed this up pretty hard. I have my ult back in a moment. Should be able to just get a triple with it pretty much. Really nice. A double. All right, there we go. We can get first turret here. Let's go for that one. All right. So you get 2 gold per adoration stack, meaning that if, as you guys can see, we just got, like, literally just got the adoration out of the way. So we got a hell lot of gold. And this is the cool thing about Draven is once you start getting kills, if you make sure to get your minions, then you automatically get stacks. And then once you get a kill, you take all of these stacks that you have, convert them into gold, which means that the first kill you get might actually be like giving you like 2 or 3 kills in total, which is absolutely ridiculous because of the amount of gold that you can get from this ability. So it is very essential on Draven that you do not die, because you lose most of your stacks whenever you die. In terms of your abilities, then this is where the hard part of playing Draven really comes in, because a lot of people might look at your Q, your axes, as being, well, this ability is super easy. Well, the concept of it is very simple, but the actual execution of using Draven's axes is probably one of the most difficult things on Draven. And as I said, Draven is one of the hardest ADCs to play. The reason for this is that your axes... Oh, don't mind if I do. I'll take this free kill, because why not? I could flash over. I'm not going to, but we should have. Could have been a free kill. All right. But the reason why these axes are pretty difficult is because the axes show your opponents exactly where Draven is about to move. This is especially significant in team fighting, which we'll talk about pretty soon. But they will know exactly where you're moving. You can see how, like, wherever we cast, and we want to move to our axe, right? And this is what you really need to learn as a Draven player, is learning when not to pick up your axe. This is where I see the most people make mistakes. And I'm not saying that I am an absolute master at Draven. I'm not. I know the concepts of how he's supposed to be played, but I'm not necessarily the best player with him. But what you got to be thinking about when playing Draven is whether or not you should be picking up an axe. The general rule of thumb with Draven's axes is do not pick them up if they put you in danger of getting hit by any type of CC or getting killed. This really counts in team fighting as well, and it's something we'll dig a lot deeper into a little later into the game. But yeah, now that we're kind of out of the early game, just really summing up with the early game, you just really want to play aggressive. You pick Draven to win early game. You pick him to snowball the early lead, because he really scales off in the late game. He's not as strong as other ADCs late, and he's very difficult for most people to actually play well in team fights because of the fact that his axes can be his own death, because people pick up axes that put them in really, really poor positions. I just again want to emphasize that you can control which direction your axes fall. So if I throw an axe here and move forward, you'll see my next axe is going to be forward. If I cast it there and move backwards, it's going to go backwards. So you can control not exactly where the axe lands, but which direction it lands, whether it goes forward, sideways, backwards, or whatever. It's quite important to know because it really tells you a lot about the champion. Something you need to know with Draven is also his E is actually a really insane ability that is highly underrated. It is actually a stun effect because it actually, if you play like with something like a Yasuo, he will actually be able to use his ult when you E. And this is because it's a micro, knock up, or what do you say, like where it knocks it to the side. The cool thing about this is that whenever you do this, then the opponent is actually not able to auto attack or do anything. So it's an ability you really want to be using. The correct approach to using this ability is, however, a little bit more tricky than most people think. A lot of people will just throw this thing out as they're fighting, but it's actually best used before you reach your target. The thing is that your E, as you can see, has actually a further range than your auto attack range. This means that using this one just before the engage initiates, like just as you're running up to someone, you have your axes running, you pop your W, and then you E before you get to them, before you guys start attacking each other. This will actually give you an advantage in auto attacks due to the fact that, oh, that's a free kill. Due to the fact that it will actually bounce them to the side, and you will get like the first 1 or 2 auto attacks off before they will even be able to react. So really think about this and take good use of it. Oh, I want to go for an extreme. Okay, yeah, that was a little aggressive. But this is what I mean with Draven. He's really fun. Like at this point, you can see how they're fleeing away from us. They're really, really not enjoying themselves. All right. So with that out of the way, your ult can also be a really, really nice thing. Try to use it. Like in team fighting, you want to try use your ult to hit as many targets as possible. Preferably early in the engage, because that will actually allow you to, if you hit that ult really well and hit 4 or 5 targets, it can actually straight up win you the engage, because of the fact that you'll take off like 1/3 to half of most of their party's health, which can be really useful. But yeah, in terms of the early game, I feel like we've kind of covered that. You want to play super aggressive. You play this champion to win the early game. Once you're out of the early game, we move into what we call the mid game, which is where we are now. We're kind of like in a mid to late game. And what you want to be doing with Draven here is, ideally, you want to be moving to the mid lane, and then you want your mid laners to go to the side lanes. Reason for this is, and I know I preach this in every ADC video, but is that you want to be as close as possible to the 2 main objectives, or the two neutral objectives, and that is the Baron and the Drake. Because if you're close to these things, you're going to be able to hopefully win most team fights. And also because of the fact that, ooh, this is really going down. I'm not a big fan of this fight right now because we're sitting a little awkward for it. Right here, we're going to do the knock up. We're going to try and cast out a heal, and we will be able to just smash them. All right, I didn't play that fight extremely well at all, actually, but we're so far ahead at this point that we don't really need to. But yeah, so for the mid game, you want to go to the mid lane because of the fact that you can help your team much better from there, mostly due to the fact that you and your support will be in the mid lane, which means that you're 2 players mid lane instead of just 1, which is actually just extremely good, right? I feel like that's kind of an obvious one and a no-brainer, but a lot of people actually kind of misunderstand this. If your mid laner does not want to move from the mid lane, then of course you will have to I guess in a way I want to say respect it, but that's not really what I mean. You have to just, it doesn't make sense for you guys to be 2 people in the mid lane, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say. So if they don't go away, oh my god, this is just so satisfying. I actually missed a lot of my axes here, but doesn't really matter too much. All right, but let's play from the, like, if your mid laner does not want to go to the side lanes, you will have to do so, because it's important for you to keep your farm and your XP, whoop, and your let's try and see if we cannot finish this, by the way, because I want a little bit more time to do things. You want to make sure that you try to the best of your ability to Oh, let's buy this really quickly, actually. There we go. I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing thread of what we're doing. And there we go. But then if your mid laner's too stop and he stays mid lane, even though you told him please rotate to side lanes, then you will have to go side lanes because it does not make sense to share XP and gold with 3 players. So take your support in your hand and go side lane if that's the case, but ideally you want to be mid lane. All right. So when we're team fighting on, or when we're in the mid game, this is where we're looking to group up with our team as much as possible for objectives, meaning the Drake, the Baron, turrets, etc. For these things, it is quite important for us that we play what we call the backline. And this means that we're staying as far back in our team as possible, and we're going for the nearest target. One of the cool things about Draven is that he's actually one of the few ADCs that if you see an opening where you can run past their front line, then you can actually do that in a lot of cases and literally just take out their entire backline. Because Draven is insane at killing squishies, especially if you're running a build with like rapid fire cannon, you can actually do this. This is one of the things where I'm like, for newer players, I rather want to tell you, do not do this. Don't go for the backline. Just kill closest target. Learn how to do well during this. And then with practice, start considering to sometimes look for these direct ambushes onto the backline. But they are super risky if you don't know what you're doing. And if you're not counting on... like, the thing is, if you want to do one of these things where you dive the backline, then you have to know what you're playing against. You have to count whether or not Leona has her stuns, whether or not she has her ult, and if she does, then you don't want to do it. And that's one of the things with Draven that makes him, he's a very hard champ to do super well on because of this. Right here, you can just see how much damage we're giving. It's insane. Like, this champ is just ridiculous. There we go. Grab these. We'll back out a little bit. All right, so for the team fights, this is something we touched slightly on earlier, and that is with Draven. It's very, very, very important. I actually don't really feel very comfortable with this fight. I'm super afraid of getting caught, so whoop. There we go. Grab this. He doesn't have his stuff. There we go. We'll grab these. When you're playing Draven in team fights, it is very important to constantly... let's say that you're going for the closest target. You don't want to be going for... let's say you're not going for any of these dive tactics. You're just playing the plain strategy, which I would recommend most people, especially if you're new to Draven, have to kind of learn him. Then you want to be sitting on the back line, playing as safely as you can, and just sitting there damaging the closest target. And while doing this, you have your E at your disposal to push people a little back, peel yourself, grant that extra auto, peel for your teammates, etc. Also, when you're sitting on the backline, make sure if you get the chance to hit several targets with your ult, to do so. But what I want you to do when doing this is that I want you to constantly evaluate whether or not an axe is worth picking up. This comes down to practicing what I talked about for the diving tactic as well, which is you need to start thinking about what does the enemy have. In this case, when I'm playing against a team with a Blitzcrank, I'm like, do I go for this axe? Am I in any risk of Blitzcrank hooking me? If the answer to that question is yes on that axe, then I don't go for it. If the answer is no, then I go for it. And this is constantly what you want to be thinking about. And this is also going to prepare you for learning how to do backline dive tactics. But doing the backline dive, as I said, the important thing for that one is really, and I cannot emphasize this enough, that you are counting their cooldowns, that you know if they have their stuns, if they have their snares, if they have their important stuff that can shut you down, that you're not running in and suiciding yourself. Generally speaking, going for the dive strategy is extremely hard, but it is very, very profitable if you manage to pull it off. But Draven is one of these champs where you can solo carry pretty hard because of his ability to literally just go nuts. Like, you can see at this point, like, we're absolutely smashing them. We could probably have pulled off like a penta with a little bit of luck here. We can finish the game. Like, we've been sitting in a scenario where we could probably finish the game for the past long time. We are extremely fed. But yeah, I think the biggest giveaway or takeaway from Draven is this thing with make sure that you evaluate whether or not picking up an axe is actually worth it. One thing that I didn't really get to touch on that I think is important is actually when you're picking up your axes, when let's say you're chasing down a target, then your axe will land in front of you because you're moving forwards. I see a lot of players do a big mistake, which is they throw their axe, then they use their W to run after the opponent, which is fine. But the thing is, they then end up having to move back for their axe. It's better for you to throw the axe and then use your W and kind of stop up so you stop right where the axe is about to land, and then do this instead of because you actually lose some from running a little bit back. I see a lot of Draven players doing this because they're kind of like, they think the axe is going to end up further away or further towards their enemy, or that they can just keep clicking W and running straight and it'll automatically pick up the axes. But you actually run faster than your axes move. And it is worth for you to pick up those axes on the way because it deals so much more damage than getting a normal auto in between. So yeah, I hope you guys kind of found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a fun game as well. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe down below. I would greatly appreciate it, and I would love you to join into our awesome community. Lastly, if you want to hang out with me on stream, make sure to go to twitch.tv/MipZ_live. But yeah, that is actually going to be it for this video. As always, stay awesome, have fun, and take it easy, guys.